And one time in my first year, I went up to an old guy at a meeting and I said, Charlie, would you just hang out with me this afternoon? Because I'm not sure I can make it. And he just sat on a park bench with me in Boston for a couple hours because the last meeting was at noon and there wouldn't be another meeting till 5 p.m. And I wasn't sure I could make it. So I sat with him on it. We had nothing to talk about. We had nothing in common. He's an old guy. We just sat there. And about 3:30 in the afternoon, I turned to him and I said, Charlie, I don't think I can do this. And he said, You're doing it.
How simple. You're doing it.
I heard it through the grapevine. Welcome. It's the AA Grapevine half-hour variety hour featuring the collected voices of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm Don, an alcoholic in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Hey, Don. Hey, everybody. I'm Sam, an alcoholic in Palm Springs, California.
Hiya, Sam.
What's up, Mr. Man?
Your voice is sounding deep and rich today.
I'm channeling my inner Barry White today.
Ooh, you got some deep thoughts. Give us some deep thoughts, Sam.
Deep thoughts. That's all I got. I don't actually have any, but I can say it.
Well, I got a deep thought.
What's that?
It's a brand new month. It's a brand new year.
Oh, my God.
And you know what that means.
Woohoo! It's time to hang my brand new Grapevine wall calendar.
Yes, that and woohoo! The new grapevines are here.
Woohoo! Yay! Woo-hoo!
Release the monkeys.
Don, Bill W. says in our 12 and 12, one of the greatest rewards of prayer is a sense of belonging. If you struggle with prayer and spirituality, you are not alone. Luckily, sponsorship, fellowship, and our incredible literature are here to help show the way. Our first issue of the new year features powerful, helpful stories about the many ways AA members pray and seek spirituality in sobriety.
In the story, God and Love, a long-timer shares how he found his higher power through kindness and nature.
In My First Spiritual Experience, a member has a revelation reading the Big Book with a sponsor that he won't soon forget.
In That I May Bring Light, a member recalls the wonderful ways our 11th step prayer has helped him.
And a newcomer looks to something mysterious and furry for a beautiful lesson in belief and faith in the cute tale Out of the Woods.
Furry. To get a lesson of faith from something furry. I'm going to have to read that story.
You really want to be powerless? Try calling a cat.
Yeah, I do it all the time. That cat just ignores my existence. Sam, in the monthly photo section, which I love,
yes, you do.
The monthly photo section of various and sundry meeting rooms is called If Walls Could Talk. Well, this month, it's gone international. There's a photo of the English-speaking meeting in Chenia, Crete, Greece. Describe the photo, Sam.
It's a small tiled room with woven wicker seat chairs along the wall and a long table in the middle with a tablecloth. You don't get a tablecloth in most meeting rooms.
Nice touch. What I love is the tiled floor with this inlaid area rug pattern of diagonal checkers surrounded by, appropriately enough, a Greek key border.
There's also a photo of a meeting room in Paris, France, the 8 a.m. weekday meeting.
Now that one in France, it's got stackable plastic chairs arranged in an oval, and it's like 20 chairs. But every chair's got a piece of paper on it, some literature maybe. What I need is a high-tech photo crew like they have in the movies where you can say, Sam, zoom in on that paper. Enhance. Bring up the resolution. That doesn't really work.
The only way you can really tell this is an AA meeting from this photo is a container of poker chips on a chair.
Yeah, you can see those poker chips. Yeah, that's an AA meeting. And there's one more photo. There's the Rome group celebrating 80 years, it says.
Wait, has there been an AA group meeting in Rome since 1944?
Well, it's Rome, Georgia. But the other two photos really are international.
Oh, and you have a story in this issue.
Woohoo!
The Easier Way on page 24. How did that come about?
I just sent it in like anybody would. I was doing a Grapevine workshop to write a story to send into the Grapevine, and I participated, as facilitating, but I wrote a story, and it got chosen. I mean, it wasn't because they knew who I was. It was just like, got chosen like they all do. So all you have to do is send it in. And I sent a short, like a share that I would do. You've heard me say this many times.
Oh, this was a great influence on my early recovery. You helped me deal with the word God very early on.
Yeah, I was like hung up on the word God, and I felt like I couldn't just say God, so I had to be honest. So I had to describe in detail every time I said it exactly what I meant, like the incorporeal force of the universe that connects all living things, the interconnected web of existence of which we're all a part, that spirit, like at the ocean or overlooking a mountain view, and having to do that every time, it's a lot of work. So I just wrote that share, and
I love that, Shirley. So I heard you from the podium at, I don't know, sometime in the first few months of my recovery. And that made it so much easier for me to use the word God because it turned it into shorthand. It doesn't matter what you think I mean when I say the word God. I know what I mean.
Deep thoughts from Sam. There's the deep thought.
There you go. Deep thoughts from Sam.
Sam, who's our guest today? Because it's not me.
Nope. Don, today's guest is the author of Just the Right Time. We welcome Shirley P. from Agoura Hills, California. Her story is on page 18 of the January 2025 issue. But first,
the news.
The Grapevine is looking for stories of gratitude to celebrate a new book. What were you like before AA compared to what you're like today? How do you stay grateful now each day? Share some stories which illustrate your journey with gratitude now that you're sober. Stories are due by February 15th, 2025. Go to aagrapevine.org/share.
The message of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Well, this is where it all happens.
What you have to look forward to is a huge party.
Because it works. It just works.
In case a fellow suffering alcoholic needs it, we have it.
Our Primary Purpose is a podcast about Alcoholics Anonymous and is produced by the AA General Service Office in the U.S. and Canada. We'll be exploring how the General Service Office, or GSO, supports the AA members and groups who carry the AA message to those who need it most, which is our primary purpose. We'll share some rare audio straight from the GSO archives.
It's a wonderful organization, fellows, and I'm proud to have this opportunity to tell you how it works.
That people from all walks of life can find a home in Alcoholics Anonymous.
And when you get into the guts of the office over there, you'll begin to see how important that has been.
Share what it's like to work here.
I always say this desk has spiritually rearranged me.
It was deeply meaningful.
It's not just a department, it's an attitude.
And hear from some of our visitors from around the world.
Actually, being here makes me feel even more connected.
We just have more appreciation for the program.
This is what enables us to have the literature where I saw my solution.
And I understood it, but I didn't see it, and now I can see it.
We'll take you on a virtual tour and bring you exclusive access to the GSO archives.
So what do we got in the back?
So this is an area that we don't normally take visitors into, but for you...
You do not want to miss this. Subscribe now to Our Primary Purpose, the official podcast of the General Service Office of Alcoholics Anonymous, everywhere podcasts can be found, so you can hear our weekly episodes when they begin streaming on January 14th.
Hi, Shirley P., alcoholic. My home group is Global Eye Opener at 6 a.m. California time every day.
Woo, that is an eye opener, 6 a.m.
I heard a long time ago that those people who go to a meeting first thing in the morning are really serious about recovery.
I think so, because most people who go to a meeting that early work for a living.
Is that an online meeting?
It is indeed, yeah. It is very international. We have people from China and South Africa and India, and some of them don't even speak much English, but they can understand the language in Alcoholics Anonymous.
Shirley, when did you get sober?
Okay, I got sober March 6th of 92.
Oh, that's been a minute. What was going on in your life, and particularly in your mind, when you came into Alcoholics Anonymous then?
I really felt like I lost Shirley. I lost my soul. I was living in a detached house in England. There was a lot of land around the house. There were nice cars in the garage. I even had my Camaro 8-cylinder car over there in England, if you can believe it. And it was a lovely townhouse with beautiful Persian carpets and furnished nicely, even with a piano, which I played and sang. But I was like, where is Shirley? I would walk around this house that was empty. My fiance was at work. I wasn't allowed to work in England because I'm American. Where is Shirley? Like I lost my soul. So I thank God I never got a DUI. I never got arrested or anything like that. I was also living with a man who was hitting me, and I never would have allowed that. When I was 8 years old, I even stopped my father when he tried to hit me. And I told him not to touch me again, and my father backed off and never did again. So here I was now, a grown woman, and allowing a man to hit her. I had really lost myself. So I really cried out to God, but not before I felt I was either going to die by my own hand, or I was going to off him and then be put in prison, or he was going to kill me, or I was going to go crazy and be put away.
You were really at the jumping off place there.
I was definitely at the jumping off point, but that wasn't enough. One night I had heart palpitations. In England, the houses are always cold, even with central heating. You never have enough heat. So I went upstairs and I was in bed with my fiance, and I woke him up and I said, "Oh, I'm scared. I'm having heart palpitations and I'm sweating profusely." And he said, "Shut the f up." So I realized I'm all alone here. I don't have any family. He doesn't care really. And I went downstairs, got down on my knees, and I cried and begged God and Jesus, please help me. I'll do anything. And the answer came back, go to AA, because I had been to AA before in the States, and I got lots of white chips and I had the books with me, but I didn't think of going back until that moment. Wow. So in England, in this little village, we lived in this gorgeous, charming, to die for Shakespearean village. It was adorable. And we had this little tiny phone book, about this 5x8, real thin phone book. The first number in there was Alcoholics Anonymous. So I called that number at 7 a.m. and the lovely lady who answered the phone said, "Oh, my dear, it's my husband who's in AA. I'll have him call you tonight." And thank God I was brave enough to say, "No, please don't wait till tonight. I'll lose my nerve by then and I'll be drunk by then. So please get a hold of him now." We didn't have cell phones back then, so I don't know how she did it, but she got a hold of that man. I'm so grateful for that. And somebody picked me up and took me to a noon meeting in Cambridge, England.
Oh my gosh, that is wonderful.
And I went into that room and I told them the truth about everything that was happening.
So you had been to AA before. Do you think that helped you?
Yeah, it did help me because I knew how hard it was. I knew that I had failed before and that I talked myself out of getting sober before in the past. And I didn't want to do that again. I was really scared this time. So that fear was an edge. Thank God I kept it my whole first year so that I would stay on the mark, Then they told me, these lovely people in AA, it's not easy to get sober when somebody's hitting you. So it might be better for you to go back to America. You'd be better off in America. There's more meetings. You'll have support. So with 16 days sober, I flew back to Boston in the United States so I could get started.
Did you leave him?
I left him and I didn't tell him I was leaving because you can't tell an abusive man you're leaving. He won't let you leave. So I kissed him goodbye when he went to work and I flew back to the United States and I cried all the way over. And I cried my whole first year because I had to leave him and that was hard. Plus I had to get sober. And then I got a sponsor right away and went to meetings right away. And I did what she told me.
And what did she tell you to do?
Well, first of all, she wanted me to go to a meeting every day. She wanted me to call her every day. She wanted to know, was I ready to go to any lengths? I remember that question because I asked that of sponsees today.
So that's such a good question because you can always go back to it. Now, you said that you were willing to go to any lengths when the obstacles start to come up.
That's right. And she used it too. She said, there were several times where she said, you told me you'd go to any lengths.
Is there a particular moment, one of those times that stands out?
Yeah, the first year I actually bought 4 tickets to fly to Europe to see him because it was so hard to detach from him. So I bought 4 tickets. I had a bag packed. I called a taxi to go to the airport. And then I called her.
Last
and
minute.
she would, and back then they gave you a refund. And then she said to me, we're going to 3 meetings tonight, back to back. Get your coat on and meet me right now. So I did.
So you didn't have problems, it sounds like, with not drinking.
Yes, I did the first year. Yeah. I remember one time seeing a glass of whiskey floating around in front of my eyes, and I didn't even drink whiskey. So I was like, oh my God, I was terrified. So I called somebody right away from the meeting, and he met me in a few minutes downstairs at the park, and I got past it. And then at 90 days, that was a profound moment. I'm an actress, so I had auditioned for a movie they were doing in Boston, and I had not worked for my first 89 days. I was told by my agent, oh, the director called everybody directly. So if he didn't call you, you didn't get the part. So I was kind of depressed about that. And I was trying to let it go. And my sponsor said, you're not even ready to do a film yet. And then all of a sudden, on my 89th day, I got the script in the mail with a schedule for rehearsals. So I called my friend who's not even in the program. He said, Shirley, for once in your life, just be cool and show up at the rehearsal. Don't call and ask questions. Just show up. So I did. And my sponsor fired me because she said, I don't agree that you're ready to do a film. So I had to deal with that. So when I went over there, I was on the bus and I was feeling a lot of tension and fear and nervousness and all that. And I think everybody on the bus was glad when I got off because I had such tension on me. And I got off the bus and I walked into the hotel, and right away this wave came over me. Just get drunk. Forget about the movie. Forget about AA. Just get drunk in that bar where I used to drink in that bar. So it came over me. Now, there were lots of people walking back and forth in the lobby, and I saw a priest. I went right up to him, grabbed both of his hands, and I said, Father, I have 90 days sober today, and I'm thinking of getting drunk in that bar. Will you pray with me? And he prayed with me right there. And he said, as I understand it, your first step means you're out of control. I said, yeah, I am. So he prayed with me and I had peace right away. So I was okay. And I went to do my little shoot. It only took a couple hours. And then I went to an AA meeting at noon in Boston and I shared what happened because I was so excited about the fact that I got over it and I was still sober. So I shared about it in the meeting, and this guy said to me after the meeting, if that was me, I would have gone into the men's room, got down on my knees and prayed. And I said, yeah, well, God sent me a priest.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I was so delighted.
So at what point did you start sponsoring?
Oh, I didn't start sponsoring till later when I came out to California. I came out to California when I had 16 months sober. I was asked to speak at a meeting downtown, and I spoke at this meeting, and this guy who was the secretary and who asked me to speak came up to me after and said to me, "You haven't done your fourth and fifth step, have you?" Because he could tell from the way I spoke. Yeah. So that really got to me. He called me on something. So I got busy and I said, "Ooh, I have to re-up my game now and really make sure I do those steps right." So I went through the steps again with somebody else from California.
You know, I am they call it the sponsorship coordinator. It's a service position within my home group. And really all it is I go to the front of the room during announcements and say that this group focuses on sponsorship. What is sponsorship? It's one person who has worked the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, helping another person work the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's all it is. That is where I hold sponsorship in my life. Now, do relationships develop out of that and conversations happen and we get to know each other, a sponsee and a sponsor, or me with my sponsor? Absolutely. But the primary purpose of that relationship is to work the program.
Yeah, I think we have no opinion on outside issues. Hence, the A name ought never be drawn into public controversy. On a personal level, can be laid into the idea that we have no opinion on outside issues. Even so, I really don't need to be expressing an opinion on outside issues with sponsees on their life and what they're doing. But I can share my experience from my life. But I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not, a physician. I have no expertise in these areas. So I don't know that it's appropriate for a sponsor to be laying down a law about certain things that are outside of Alcoholics Anonymous.
You know, I just jumped over to aa.org while you were talking, Don, because I don't really pay attention to what you say anyway. And I typed sponsorship into the search field at the top of the page. And the very first hit is the pamphlet called Questions and Answers on Sponsorship. It's a fantastic resource. And you can look at it for free on aa.org. And lots of groups and intergroups and central offices have these physical pamphlets as well.
Shirley, how do you sponsor? What do you do with somebody new?
Well, first I asked them that same question that I was asked. Are you ready to go to any lengths to get sober? I asked them if they are able to read. Some people are not able to read when they first come in. So I asked them if they're able to read the first step on their own, or do they want to read it with me? If they want to read it with me, and most of them do, we read it word for word together. And I say to them at the beginning, if you have any qualms or reservations, or you don't understand something we read, stop me right away, even if it's just a word or a phrase, and we'll nail it down, because you got to get this step perfect.
Shirley, wait a minute. Are you talking about reading from the 12 and 12 on the first?
From the 12 and 12, the whole thing, word for word. And then at the end, it says, we stand ready to do anything which will lift this merciless obsession from us. And they usually say yes. And then I ask them to write out now, keep a separate spiral notebook just for your sobriety. And then we're going to put in that notebook 10 ways that you are powerless over alcohol and 10 ways that your life is unmanageable under alcohol. Then you're going to read it to me. And then I say to them, now take a big magic marker and mark all over the page, paid in full, and keep that in your notebook. So now you know I already paid that price. I don't want to do that again.
I love that.
And then we go and read Bill's story on page 1 of the big book, word for word, again, asking them to stop me so we can nail that first step, because it's got to be perfect.
What is that first step?
That we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable.
And really taking that in.
Right. And that you're no longer alone. You're part of this fellowship now.
Don't you find, though, that it really deepens as time goes on? My powerlessness, I mean, it's like every year I'm more and more powerless. I mean, I realize where the line is of where I actually have power and influence. Always, it seems like it shrinks more and more the longer I'm sober. It's like.
It sounds like you're doing a lot of letting go, Don. I think it's an awareness and a letting go of, wait, I didn't have control over that all along, but I've been trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. Lately, I've been looking at a lot of YouTube stuff about quantum physics, and it's so fascinating. We don't really know what is out there. It seems to be infinite, and you're like, wow.
It's really interesting stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, to define the physical, and you would think that would shrink it, but then more and more knowledge of the way that the physical world is, it then becomes infinite again.
It's endlessly fascinating to me.
It is indeed.
Shirley, how did you end up writing a story for the Grapevine?
Oh, you know what? Several people said they liked my stories. When I talk to people, I often illustrate a point I'm making by telling a story, you know, like you were saying about powerlessness. I realized I'm powerless over, detaching from that guy I left in England. I'm powerless over what happened between us, but I am not without power as far as asking God to keep me from going over to Europe to get him back. And then he actually came to Boston and holed up in the hotel for a week and kept trying to get me back. So I was powerless over what was happening there, but I did have ability to turn my will and my life over to the care of my higher power so I could trust the process and trust that he would guide me. So when people said they liked what I said in a meeting or they liked some story I told, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should write, and submit it.
Shirley, I'm so glad you wrote us a story that we get to read in the Grapevine and then agreed to come and sit and have a conversation with you. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you,
It's
Shirley.
been lovely, lovely to be with you. Thank you.
Thanks to everyone who subscribes to the Grapevine magazine in print or in the AA Grapevine app. Your support makes this podcast possible.
I'm at the very wit's end. Cuckoo.
Our speaker tonight is Lunford Rico Aloysius R.
My name is Lumford Rico Aloysius, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Lunford Rico Aloysius.
Folks, I want to talk about liars today. Raise your hands. How many of you have read the 15th chapter of the Big Book? I see about half of you have raised your hands. You're the ones I want to talk to. There is no 15th chapter in the Big Book.
It's really not that funny. Thanks for joining us. The AA Grapevine Half-Hour Variety Hour is posted every Monday and is produced by AA Grapevine, Inc. We don't speak for AA as a whole. We share the experience, strength, and hope of members to help others recover from alcoholism. All things Grapevine are available at aagrapevine.org, including our app and how to get in touch with us. Find us on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to know more about AA, visit aa.org or search online for Alcoholics Anonymous and your city.